WMBF News exposes the details. Monday at 11.
Welcome to WMBF News This Week. I'm your host, Michael Maely. Almost 200 candidates off the ballot wanting to run for office in South Carolina. We're talking about the ballot bait through the eyes of some candidates that are off the ballot, as well as State Representative Alan Clements, who is coming to kind of give us his perspective as well. Let's introduce our candidates who wanted to be on the ballot. Mike Connett kept off the ballot for the House District 105. Thanks for coming in.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me.
Mike Ryle kept off the House District 56 ballot. Appreciate your time today as well, too. Mary Henry kept off the Horry County District 3 ballot. Thank you for coming in. And of course, Representative Alan Clements, thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Michael.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, this is a convoluted piece for sure, to put it lightly. I know on WMBF News we've tried to kind of explain the ins and outs of the whole process. I want to start with you, Alan, because I know you've been very active this week as well, too, talking at state level. What, if anything, are we looking at as we move forward right now? Let's first say where we are. We've got 180 some candidates, Republican and Democrat. Is it in the judge's hands, a state supreme or federal judge's hands right now? What are the options right now as potentially delaying this June 12th primary?
Michael, it was until just a few minutes ago in the federal judge's hands. Okay. And it looked like we had an opportunity to get some resolution from the federal courts. There was a 3-judge panel being convened for Monday for hearing. I just received, in fact, I was a little late walking in here because I just received an update from the federal court. The lawyer prosecuting that case has now withdrawn the parts of the case that could have resulted in a resolution to the debacle that we've got here. Okay. So I'm not seeing it as a federal court fix. And in my opinion, based on what I saw happen at the State House this past week, and the timing that's involved with regard to the Justice Department, I think there is a negligible chance, very negligible chance of there being a legislative fix for the problem.
Okay, and having said that, what's your reaction? Considering we've got 180 candidates here, we've got 3 of them here who spend money and time and energy to get in there, what's your reaction to the system that so many of these candidates are not going to be accepted?
No, it's a terrible situation. We find ourselves in the biggest ballot debacle, in my opinion, that this nation has ever seen. Never in the history of this country has there been 182 candidates denied access to the ballot. Right. That doesn't just impact 182 people. That impacts every voter and limits every voter's opportunity. Right. So I'm incensed over it. Certainly those that have been disenfranchised, like these 3 individuals with us today, they've been disenfranchised. And we're not seeing a fix. Right. There are limited remedies, such as filing as a petition candidate. But that certainly has its drawbacks. By being a petition candidate on the ballot in November, you don't have the party mantle behind you. Right. As a Republican or a Democrat. You're going to miss about 20% of the votes out of the gate due to straight party ticket voting. Right. So it's a no-win situation, and one of the most un-American things that I've ever seen happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a perspective too, and you guys have all got so much paperwork in preparation for this. We're not going to be able to barely scratch the surface, but I want to kind of start with you, Mike, talking briefly, if I understand correctly, and the goal wasn't necessarily to point a finger, but it certainly is to show how this could have been prevented. You had said that you'd spoken to South Carolina, I believe the GOP, or was it maybe Johnny Bellamy, Horry County GOP president, who we have asked to be on this program. She wasn't able to attend. She did defer comment to the SC GOP, Matt Moore, and we've got some comments from him I'm going to share with you too. As I digress, talk about, did you also get a kind of a comment that said, look, you're not certified, but keep campaigning, because we're still trying to kind of work things out. That's one of many of your frustrations.
Yeah, there was a get-together here a week ago Saturday. Mike was involved in that, and when the news came down that we were removed from the ballot, the question was, where do we go from here? And the answer I got back from, I talked to Johnny Bellamy, talked to Joe Dugan of the Tea Party, and Mike relayed to me that all of them have been told by Chad Connolly to continue campaigning, just keep moving forward, and obviously that has financial consequences to it. And you have a lot of people saying, "No, wait a minute, we heard you were all off the ballot. Now you're still out here campaigning. What's going on?" So to call it a debacle, I think, is being nice. But to get that sort of direction from the leadership of the party is also, to me, a little bit disheartening.
Sure. And Mike, your similar perspective, kept off the House ballot for District 105. Your perspective on not necessarily frustration, but some of the misinformation that you feel you've got through this process.
Absolutely. I feel that there has been a major malfunction as far as information, not only from the county party, but from the state party as well. There was a memo that went out to the county chairman and the state executive committee man in every county of the state to basically inform potential candidates and current candidates of this SEI form that needed to be filed electronically.
Right.
My major complaint is the fact that the Supreme Court laid down a ruling that said that we were to comply with the law, which basically said any candidate filing must file at the same time with the same official electronically and with their paper forms. So my complaint is also that we have folks on the ballot that filed the day before, and then they went in and filed their paperwork with the chairman of the party. So that's in complete opposition to the ruling that the Supreme Court laid down. And so I guess what I'm really concerned with is why we have a ballot that does not have the proper folks that should be on that ballot, and we have other people on that ballot that did not comply with the law that are on that ballot right now.
And Mary, I guess you would echo some of those concerns as far as the consistency based on some of your research, that there are some candidates who it appears maybe didn't follow the state and or the federal law.
As I see it, Michael, I'm one of those people that you've known me for a while, and I do my research. And I knew that there were probably issues in Horry County, personal issues as far as I'm concerned, and I didn't trust that I would get the right information in Horry County. So I'm a member of the advisory board on the Council on Aging in Columbia. I was appointed by Governor Sanford. And I had a meeting in Columbia on March the 7th. So on March the 6th, I drove up to Columbia because I overnight there. And I went to the SC GOP office to get the information that I needed and told the guys there, listen, Matt, I don't trust that I'm going to get the right information. Give me what I need. And here before me, I have the filing fees, the candidacy instructions printed off of the South Carolina Elections Commission website that Matt gave me, as well as the statement of intention of candidacy, partisan, notice of candidacy and pledge, and nowhere in here in these documents that Matt did provide me does it say anything about filing a paper piece of the statement of economic interest.
The SEI.
The SEI that we're speaking of. Now, the memo that Mike Conant just mentioned was sent out on February the 6th, where it does say that. That was never forwarded to any of us. And by the way, I am on the executive committee for the Horry County Republican Party. And it wasn't sent out. And if I would have seen this either from Johnny or from Matt Moore at the party, gosh, I think I probably would have known that. So my fault for not getting it done, but I did my research.
Right. I want to show a statement briefly from Matt Moore. I got a hold of Matt via email last night, and these are statements that have been put out before. I want to show, if we can, we've got a full screen for you to show. This is part of a statement, and I said, Matt, did the county chairs do the right thing? Who could have done more? And some of the statement was this: we spent a great deal of time educating our volunteer county chairs on the proper filing procedures. That's part of the statement. Yet we also rely heavily on candidates. After all, they are signing up for highly competitive elected offices. Our filing instructions, publicly available online, describe the following process. He goes on to say those who filed properly were certified. You said you went to Columbia, you spoke to Matt Moore, who just gave us this statement.
Right.
You said, am I set to go as a candidate? He told you, look, these are the loops you have to jump through, hoops you have to jump through. No mention of the website, which the website does mention the SEI.
Right, exactly. And then the day that I went in to file, I took that notice of candidacy pledge. I took this statement, filled out. I was clocked, and the thing about it is, Michael, is I went in on March the 16th, the very first day of filing. Johnny has me as time received 12:05, that she clocked me in.
Right.
Made a copy of this stuff. Here's a copy of my check. $638.34 is how much I had to pay to even file to be a candidate.
Right.
Once I accomplished all of that and asked Johnny, what else do I need to do? She says, you're fine, nothing else is necessary, and I left thinking that I had it done.
Right.
And then later, I did online the SEI.
And you did that after the March 30th
I did,
deadline?
yeah. Mine was, even though I had logged in earlier than that, I did not hit file until March the 22nd. Filing closed on March the 30th. So I was in that group of people that did file online by March the 30th, that some legislative fixes would allow those people that did at least have an intent to file online and get it done okayed, and that got tossed by the legislature.
Ellen, let me ask you this SEI, and try to kind of simplify it, mostly for me, hopefully for you at home too. The SEI, the Statement of Economic Interest, which Mary is one of many that didn't file, is that anything new this year for candidates? Has it been always there? And the second question is, if Matt Moore is telling her and other candidates, look, you're all set, could there have been better communication at what level to say, you got to do the SEI form?
The SEI form, the Statement of Economic Interest, is a form that that the old lost trust issue that occurred over 20 years ago in the legislature gave rise to. There were legislators that were taking pay from those that wanted laws impacted, and they were called retainer agreements, and they weren't disclosed to the public anywhere. And rightly so, those sort of retainer agreements were outlawed, and it was required for, if you can think of in terms of transparency 20 years ago,
right,
that was a big step towards transparency, requiring legislators to disclose in the Statement of Economic Interest any economic benefit that they receive as a result of being a candidate or an elected official. And that has carried on for many years. The change in the law that's caused the confusion is that a couple years back, Nikki Haley and Nathan Ballantyne filed a bill that was passed into law to add to transparency that would require these paper Statement of Economic Interest forms to be filed online, so they'd be available for everybody's inspection that had access to the internet.
Right.
A very good thing. What is not a very good thing is the unintended consequence that now there are two standards to comply with: filing electronically, and for those who are not classified under the law as a public official, new candidates must file that form still under the law in paper form whenever they file their statement of candidacy.
Gotcha. So it's the online quotient that's new, and then verifying that online procedure as well.
That's correct. Now, if the Supreme Court, in considering the question that was before them, had looked beyond the incongruency in the law, the dual filing, they would have found the legislative intent to be put the public on notice. And in my mind, that filing electronically would have done that, regardless of when it was done before the end of filing.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to
as to whether there's any responsibility, I think clearly there's responsibility due to a breakdown in knowledge, education, and communication somewhere between the Election Commission and Ethics Commission and the candidate filing the forms.
Right.
The candidate filing the forms are looking for all the right information.
Right.
They're on a quest for knowledge. They want to know everything they've got to do in order to be a proper candidate on the ballot.
Right.
Should it be their fault that they've been ejected from the ballot? I don't think it should be. I think there is fault. Where it lies, it's somewhere between those 2 points.
Sure. Okay. A lot more about culpability and what goes on from here and perspectives from the candidates on WMBF News this week. Stay with us. Welcome back to WMBF News this week. The ballot battle through the eyes of at least 3 of the 180 or so candidates that are off the ballot, along with State Representative Alan Clemens. I want to talk to both of my Mikes here, Mike Ryle and Mike Conant. Mike Ryle, let's start with you, and I want to break down specifically, in addition to some of the forms that have changed this year, you've got some greater concern that you're looking at specific to your race, District 56. And your challenger, you're feeling, you kind of looked at some of the documents and when people filed. If you filed the SEI form first, you're in good shape. You've got some proof, I think, from Horry County Chair Johnny Bellamy that your challenger did not file the SEI form before the other form, the statement of candidacy intent, correct?
That's correct.
Walk me through that a little bit if you can.
When all this was going on, I had a discussion with Dennis, and he had indicated that he had went to the office and then filed the SEI afterwards. And when they put him on the ballot, I asked the question why that was done, because according to the new rules or guidelines that they were utilizing to qualify candidates, he would not have met that. So I started asking for a copy of his filing so that I could see what the time was on there. And it took me about 5 days to get that, and I finally got it. Mm-hmm. And I did bring that with me. What that shows is that Dennis filed in the office at 10 o'clock on the last day.
Okay, and that's Dennis DeSabato, who's your challenger for House District 56.
That's correct.
Filing at 10 o'clock, that's the Horry County document, says he filed at 10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And that would mean if he files the SEI first at 10 a.m. before the other document, he's legit, he's valid, correct?
If he would have gotten his SEI in before 10 o'clock,
okay,
according to their guidelines that they're using now, he would have been.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm mixing the two. So it's the SIC and the SEI.
Right, the SEI would have to come first under the guidelines they're using.
And Horry County and Johnny Bellamy are telling you that your challenger filed that SEI at what time?
I believe it's 1054's email I have, 1054, 1055.
Okay, and that's a certified document. And again, not really to split hairs, but this is one example that I want to at least bring up. And again, this is on surface that you're bringing me this. I haven't been able to verify this, except though that I did email Matt Moore of the South Carolina Republican Party last night, and he's got a document for your challenger, Mr. DeSabato, as following the SIC at 11 a.m., the SIC at 11 a.m., the SE filing at 10:55 a.m. So if you do the SEI first, you're valid. He's saying he filed it 5 minutes before the SIC. Your information is different than that or not?
My information is different than that, and I did receive the information from Matt Moore, which I have a copy of.
Okay.
So Matt's document says 11. The document on file at the GOP in Horry County says 10.
Okay.
Once I got this document, I drove back over to the GOP and asked to see the document again. And the document I have still says 10 a.m. It is on file in the GOP. And at that time, I asked Johnny Bellamy to mark it as the original for time purposes and sign it. And that was done yesterday. So I have the one that I received last week, I have the one I received yesterday, and I have the one that the GOP in Columbia has on hand, and the times are different.
You got different timestamps on there. On the surface, so let's say we've got a different record keeping. How's your reaction? What are you thinking as a candidate who's now not able to run?
Well, I guess anyone that would be handed that would be saying that there's something that doesn't work here. Something happened to this document. The top of this document is identical. It is the same document, right, except for the timestamp on the bottom.
How do we have different timestamps? For sure. And again, Alan, I don't know that you've had time to even know that this was an issue, but if there is a problem on this level, as a state representative, what, if any, power do you have to try to get to the bottom of this, if this is a common example?
Well, the discrepancy in facts, I think, certainly give rise to a court challenge. As to a legislative resolution for this particular situation, as well as the situation in chief, the overall problem with 182 candidates being thrown off the ballot, based on last week's activity, I had a bill that I couldn't even get out of subcommittee in the House. The Senate was able to progress a bill to the floor. In fact, they used my bill to progress it to the floor, but they fell short and were unable to get it passed as well. Based on that, and one of the huge problems we've got to deal with here is involvement of the Justice Department. Everybody in the legislature, it seems most everybody, is worried about turning our elections over to the Justice Department by reopening a ballot.
Right.
Personally, I think the ballot should be reopened. I think we should, if we could find a way to reopen filing, we should reopen filing, reschedule our primary date, and start with a clean slate. But as far as a legislative fix for this factual issue, I don't see that. I think that the legislature would see that as being more appropriate for the courts.
Well, let me interject here for a second. You know, we count on the party to make sure documentation is correct. And when I make them aware of this, their response is, we're willing to testify to our document in court. And what I asked them to do was look into it. And I think that's fair. They have all the players there in front of them. This is an injustice. And, you know, where do we go with something like this? And it would be nice if something like this could get fixed internally. But unfortunately, everybody's closing doors and forces us into a situation where the attorneys do get involved and outside entities get involved. And the facts are the facts here. I absolutely know that he did not file at 11 o'clock because there were several people in the office from 10:30 on, including Mike, and he never walked in the office. He told me himself when he filed. So the only thing being disputed here is how that 11 o'clock got on that paper, and that is what was used to put him on the ballot. And it is wrong. And he has no business being on the ballot based on what he submitted. And we have a problem here.
The simple fact, the reason I don't think an issue like that can be resolved internally is that certifications have already been made. And based on those certification, ballots have been printed. And ballots have already started going out to overseas military. So in order for...
I need to cut you off because we've got to take a quick break, but I want to come back and get to this a lot more on the ballot debate when we come back. Okay, welcome back to the ballot battle. We've got some pretty interesting developments here as far as some documents go. And Mike Ryle, you found your challenger with some documents that have different timestamps on them, certified from Horry County versus what the state is saying. Before we went to break, and we're only got a couple minutes here, Ellen, potentially on the surface, this could be criminal if there are different timestamps on certified official documents.
There potentially could be an element of fraud there. That's why I say I think that issue is an issue appropriately addressed in the courts. Added to the fact that what we all want is to be able to let all these candidates be on the ballot and let the citizens decide who they want to represent them. That particular challenge that has to go to the courts or to the Justice Department to set aside this election, in my opinion.
And Mike, you're saying, look, even before everything was certified and closed, you brought some of these discrepancies up, and you were told, hold on, you know, we'll get it sorted out. So you're saying, why now, when I was told to buy time? Is this not an issue that can't be dealt with at the state legislature?
Correct. I started working on this over a week and a half ago. And I kept asking the questions that if what I'm being told is correct, because they didn't have documents for me other than the ones I had already obtained, that I should just be patient and wait, and that somebody would get back to me. And I heard that day after day after day until finally, in front of a group at a meeting, I said, look, I can't wait for this. I need to know what's going on here. And at that point, the document was handed to me, and that's when I said I'm going to file a protest. That was last Friday. And by the end of the day, what I was told was, how about coming to Columbia with me tomorrow by Johnny Bellamy?